10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, Don't Unfriend Me Nation. Jitter Juice live with Matthew Spears starts right now. What's going on, everybody? Make sure the sound is 5x5. Everyone can hear what's going on. Give me a holla if you can hear what's going on. I want you to watch this segment by Fox News, and I want you to listen to Brian Killmeade. Now, Brian Killmeade, I have nothing against Brian Killmeade. I think he's smart. He's a historian. I've read 2 of his books, and overall, I don't dislike him. But like pretty much anyone in the political fray, I don't idolize him. I don't consider him a hero. And honestly, I take everything he says with a grain of salt. Truly. It's my green screen. I had to put it down. Sorry. So Brian Killmeade got into an interview. And if you have some questions, hang the questions real quick. Got into an interview with a lawmaker in regards to removing the speaker. And Brian Killmeade completely does not like Matt Gaetz. He's not a Trump fan. He completely disagrees. He loves the establishment Republicans. He is under the illusion that change is a bad thing. Okay? Here's the video. So right away, Brian Killmeade is going to set him up with a question that's very similar to, hey, do you still beat your wife? Guy's like, no. Oh, you stopped? It's a question that is truly a closed-end question, but also entrapment. So he asks him, well, 96% of Republicans believe that Kevin McCarthy was doing a good job. Do you think your vote really is, important, or do you feel good about it? And the answer from the gentleman who's on here, and I don't remember his name, is actually pretty strong. He completely disassembles Brian Killmeade, and Brian Killmeade is going to start getting pissed, right? And you're going to hear him elevate and escalate, because Brian Killmeade is a lot of things, but not being an impetuous baby is not one of them. Listen to this.
So Speaker McCarthy had 96% approval rating, but that wasn't good enough for you. Do you feel good about your vote?
Well, I don't know about 96%.
Well, they voted for him.
Ask the people. Well, I don't work for the people in Congress. I work for the people of 2nd District of Tennessee. And overwhelmingly, the folks are tired of the fact that we take in $5 trillion and we spend $7 trillion.
Tim Burchett.
That your leadership continues to pass these continuation resolutions. They push us right up against a holiday. Well, guess what? The 45-day one is pushed right up against it. We took off 6 weeks this summer. From August to, we usually just take off August, but they decided to take over 2 more weeks. And I feel like that's a failure of leadership. They're the ones who set the schedule. So, he's the speaker. Right. Ultimately, the buck stops somewhere, and diverting the attention somewhere else, I think, is just wrong.
So you realize this is the first time in history that this has been done. So you're upset about 6 weeks in the summer. Did you call him during the summer and say, can we get back to work?
I'm also upset at the fact we're $33 trillion in debt.
Is that
and
Kevin
the value
McCarthy's
of the dollar.
fault?
It could be. He needs to accept some responsibility.
Didn't he have an 8% cut offered over that in that continuing resolution bill?
And the rate of growth.
So here's the problem with this interview is, first of all, fuck Brian Killmeade, because I would last, I think 2 minutes before I would call him out on his impetuous, vitriolic, childlike nature. Listen, I'm like, the first thing I say, are you here to goad me into a fight, or are you here to get answers? You obviously have everything laid out that you want, and you have no desire to listen. So why don't I do this? Why don't I go ahead and turn off my mic? Why don't I sit down? I can get some coffee because my feet are tired. You can go ahead and talk all you want. And then if you have anything you want to ask me where you'll let me go ahead and answer without you trying to roll over me with your talking points, we can continue. Otherwise, go fuck yourself. There is no reason that any human being should subject themselves to this type of ridicule and ostentatious elitist behavior. Killmeade is an elitist dick. He's not interested in the answer. But here's the problem. Killmeade's right. He's right. Kevin McCarthy proposed a bill that was the best bill we've seen in 40 fucking years when it comes to cuts, when it comes to getting border funded, when it comes to getting veterans paid, when it comes to defense, when it comes to wasteful spending and programs, when it comes to securing drug use in the United States by securing that border, and to getting that continued resolution to oversight on Ukraine and where every dollar is being spent. Those are important things. And Kevin McCarthy negotiated that, and Matt Gaetz didn't want to sign off. Matt Gaetz is wrong too. It's not just one or the other. Very rarely are you going to have two people who are diametrically opposed, one of them just be right. There's always a reason to look at both sides. But you've got to sit here and look at Killmeade browbeating this guy and undercutting his entire argument because he can't listen. He can't ask a question and then shut up and get an answer and not combat it, because your job isn't to argue with this politician. Your job is to get the truth. And Brian Killmeade doesn't want the truth. Brian Killmeade wants the Fox narrative. Now, here's the thing. Fox viewers want Killmeade to do this because this is what Fox viewers have become. They're not interested in Matt Gaetz. They're not interested in balanced budgets. They aren't interested in 12 appropriations bills because the only thing that they've been told for the last 3 years is secure the border or else. Fuck that. They've heard it since 2014. It reared its ugly head to me this morning in chat when I was on Facebook when some yokel said, hey man, we got to get the border secured because Sharia law is coming to the United States. And I'm like, what? Did I just flash back to 2014 with the evangelists, with the Paul Ryans and the Michelle Bachmans and the Glenn Becks, the people who were touting that Sharia law and Islam was going to take over the U.S., the Tea Party nutters, not the Ron Paul Tea Partiers, the Koch brother paid off Tea Partiers who pretended to be conservatives and split the Republican Party in 2014. Sharia laws coming to the United States. Give me a break. Give me a break. This is the problem. Is Fox News people who watch it religiously don't hear the other side. They don't get to hear the other side of the story. They are showed only a few things. One is that Democrats hate Christians, which is not true. That all Democrats want to ban guns, and that's not true. That Islam is coming to destroy America, but now it's not Islam. Now it is Islamic terrorists sneaking up from the border. And that there's rows of people, and fentanyl is in your corn pops. Okay? Now, all of those things hold merit. Fentanyl is an epidemic across the United States, and it needs to be addressed. Absolutely. But it's not just the southern border that's bringing this in. This is coming in on ships. This is coming in on transports from China. This is being smuggled in now from the northern sections of the border. It's not just one place. So when you go to Fox, you get a singular myopic view, one thought, one person to blame. And all Killmeade is doing is pushing that narrative. Here's the rest.
But you're not looking at the 33 trillion, and that's really just peanuts compared to the 33 trillion that we've run up. You know, we continue. If you look at the bills that we did pass, the appropriations, the one that had the cut was the agriculture bill, and it didn't pass because the Republicans sided with Democrats. But yet the defense bill, which had, wait a minute. The defense bill that had $30 billion new dollars in the Pentagon, which has never passed an audit, which has lost at one time 60% of their assets. We reward them with $30 billion.
Yeah, and Amy, I know that. Fentanyl is a serious epidemic. It is not the only thing by the southern border, and that's the lie. It is already here. There is enough fentanyl in the United States to kill this country over 10 to 12 times. It is being mass produced in mass quantities, and the levels of fentanyl that is needed to splice into other drugs and to lace it with other narcotics is already here. Now it becomes a responsibility of DEA. It becomes a responsibility of ICE, of Homeland Security, to not only stop the fentanyl overflow coming from shipping containers on the east and west coast and from the northern border and from the southern border, but we have to also address the fentanyl that is currently in country. That's the issue. You could have a bag of this stuff that would provide an entire state worth of cutting this into other drugs for years. This stuff is extremely potent, extremely powerful, extremely dangerous for the person who does not have a tolerance built up to it. And it would be very similar to what I went through when I was taking 400 milligrams of oxycodone and Oxycontin. To take 400 milligrams would kill you absolutely without a doubt. Now, people who take opiates, if they would take fentanyl and they have a tolerance built up to it, they obviously, this is why some people take it and survive the OD. This is why some people take too much of it or they get a hot load and they still survive. But the average everyday person, Vicodin, hydrocodone, Lortab, Oxy, all of those have an implied resistance built into them. That's why the doctors give you 5 milligrams and they'll keep you on that every 6 to 8 hours, 3 times a day. But then after about 2.5, 3 weeks of that, your body grows resistant to it and the pain receptors don't necessarily respond to it. Dopamine levels are no longer created in your body. The down periods without the medicine become painful. You get depression and things like that, and you become habitual and then eventually addicted. So then they bump it up to 10 milligrams of Vicodin. Then they may do that 6 times a day. And then they realize that Vicodin is no longer potent enough because these are all stages of the same drug cut differently. So then they might give you Lortab or give you Narco, which is stronger than Vicodin. Then you go ahead and get into that and they bring you down to 2 to 3 milligrams 3 times a day. And then they raise it up again. And you realize that's not working. Then you got to get into hydrocodone. Now they can start giving you 10 milligram tabs and then give that to you 8 times a day. Then give it to you 10 times a day. Then give it to you fucking 12 times a day, depending upon how long you've been on it. And when that doesn't work, it's time to start the morphine, the true morphine, the Oxycontin, the slow release, to go ahead and get those impacts. And then when that doesn't work, they give you Valium. And if they don't give you Valium, they'll go ahead and give you a sleep additive. Folks, this is the problem, is people are taking fentanyl, and it's not that it's the most dangerous drug in the world. It's that it is a potent form that will absolutely kill your ass unless your body has resistances built up to it. I'm telling you right now, fentanyl is dangerous. It needs to be a focus. We've got to shut down the border. We have got to stop the northern border immigration, illegal immigration that's coming in, and the drug running that's happening in the north too. It's no longer just the south. We have to stop the east and the west transport ships from bringing this shit in. And the problem with fentanyl is that what can fit on a pinhead can kill most human beings. It's extremely potent and extremely dangerous, which means you don't need a large quantity to give to a supplier. You don't need a large quantity to cut it and sell it on the streets. It's easy to get in. It's extremely small quantities, can be used indefinitely. That's the problem. But Fox News is going to sell you that it's this guy's fault. It's his fault. Instead of blaming all of them, because they all voted for appropriation bills that were way ridiculous. All of them voted for the $1.6 trillion when Trump came into office and they pushed it along his desk when he first 3 months that he got there. And in order to get the defense bill signed, and he didn't want to wait for a year, he also approved all the pork that was in it. This isn't one person's responsibility. It's all of their responsibility.
$1 billion more so the war pimps at the Pentagon can spread more war around the globe.
So because he didn't audit the Pentagon and get every appropriation bill done, you're going to make history by ousting him to move your agenda forward? Here's what Kevin McCarthy said about you.
I personally like Tim Burchett, and I called Tim Burchett because I read his quote. And Tim Burchett's a friend of mine, which I'm kind of shocked by this. And Tim Burchett, in his quote, said he's leaning towards no, he's on CNN.
And let me tell you what's happening here. Tim Burchett is friends with Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy just said it. Kevin McCarthy comes on and says this and gives a name to a face. There were 8 other people who voted for this. There were 8 other people who said no. But because Fox got it that Tim Burchett says, hey, Kevin McCarthy and I were friends, or excuse me, Kevin McCarthy says that Tim Burchett and I were friends, and I'm not kind of sure what he did this for. They get him on, and then Brian Killmeade comes in and sandbags him.
But I'm going to pray about it. So I pick up the phone and call him because I didn't think he was already there. I said, Tim, I read your quote. You said you're going to pray about it. I wanted to talk to you about it. And somehow he construes that I'm a Christian. I'm not going to offend somebody. I simply read his quote back. I thought there was still an opening, and I wanted to talk to him about it. He never mentioned anything when we were communicating like that.
So you said part of the reason you voted like that is because you felt he was mocking you, correct? So it's personal.
And that's not accurate, and that's any of that. I asked him about the 6 weeks off. I asked him about why we didn't have a term limits bill up, and continued on down the line, and it was always not his fault. You know, leadership has responsibilities. The buck stops somewhere, and in the House of Representatives, it starts at the Speaker's office, and clearly
it starts with the spending. Right? You can sit here and listen, the Speaker can get up there and he can take his bottom lip and pull it over his head. He can stand up naked and eat a bowl of green Jell-O if he wants to. None of that matters. The Speaker is absolutely immaterial. The only thing the Speaker does is he keeps his party majority in line, and the minority leader keeps the minority party in line. And the only other thing you need to understand is that blaming the Speaker is like blaming the head coach of a fucking football team. The last time I checked, the coach doesn't score touchdowns. The last time I checked, he doesn't kick field goals. He doesn't kick it off. He doesn't punt it. He doesn't return it. He doesn't catch it. He doesn't throw it. He puts the game plan on the frickin' docket, and then those players go out and play the game. Blaming the Speaker for everything that happens is ridiculous, considering his influence is just to get people to rally. That's the job. And the interesting thing is the Speaker is held with a bag, and that can be from Gingrich, that can be from Pelosi, that can be Kevin McCarthy. I'm not defending Kevin McCarthy. He's responsible for the purse strings. That's his job, and he's responsible for oversight. That is what they do. Senate does oversight. House does overall appropriations and where the dollars go. They cook the legislation. They push it through. Senate confirms it, looks at it for oversight, looks at it for impartiality, looks at it for the states' rights, decides if that should go through, and then they push it to the president's desk, or they kick it back to the House. The Supreme Court looks at the overall constitutionality of that and does not necessarily destroy it. They kick it back to the Senate to make changes, or they boot it back down to the House to go ahead and rewrite the bill. This isn't hard, people. This isn't complex. It's really fucking simple. But Brian Killmeade wants to come in here and have a person to hang this on. So he's going to hang it on him, and he's going to make sure all of his viewers see it.
That's not happening. And clearly, you know, you want to continue to make excuses for him. But the truth is his approval rating around the country was not very high. And I don't represent the people of Congress.
Right,
I represent the people in Tennessee.
I got it. What do you think is going to do for the Republican Party and chances of holding on to leadership and the majority when it looks like you're the ringleader of a circus led by Matt Gaetz, who likes to blow things up but not offer any new ideas? Are you happy following Matt Gaetz? Is that your leader?
I'm not following Matt Gaetz. I made my own decision. I didn't ask Matt.
But if Matt Gaetz didn't challenge, you weren't going to challenge.
Do what?
If Matt Gaetz didn't stand up, you weren't going to challenge. You know that.
I believe I would have.
Oh, come on. Please. You were praying about it 1 minute. The next minute, you're going to lead an insurgency?
So you don't think that praying about it's important? Is that what you're saying?
One minute you're praying about how you're going to vote with Matt Gaetz. And the next minute you're going to lead an insurgency?
Listen, you got a predetermined answer to everything. I
have an opinion about what's going on. Do you have an opinion too?
And you talk over me every time I try to make a point.
All right, make your point.
The point is that we're $33 trillion in debt. This Speaker was woefully lacking in leadership skills. He always placed the blame somewhere else. America is going to be better off with new leadership. And that's the bottom line.
And who is it?
Well, possibly could be Steve Scalise. It could be Elise Stefanik. It could be Roger Williams out of Texas. It could be Mark Green out of Tennessee.
So they all supported Kevin McCarthy, including the most conservative guy I know, Jim Jordan. Why are you smarter than Jim Jordan and the 210 plus Republicans? Why are you smarter?
I represent my district, brother. And why are you smarter than me? You're
Right.
condemning me
Well,
because
I'm just saying,
I stand up on my own, and that's
I'm not
what
condemning
I do.
you. I'm questioning you. You don't like being
No, you're
questioned?
not. You're just the line of questioning is very negative, and you know that, and I know
Right.
that. And when this is all over with, and we have a new speaker and we're running smooth, let's have this conversation again.
Were you happy with John Boehner?
I wasn't here with John Boehner.
Right. With Paul Ryan?
They're both rhinos. I mean, why do you? They're not in my camp anyway. So I wasn't here when they were here.
So you had 15 yeses for every round you voted for Kevin McCarthy, but you think he's the problem?
Right now, I sure do. He's part of it. He's part of this whole problem. When you deny that there's a problem, when in this dysfunctional Washington, brother, then you know there's a problem. You can't.
Who denied there was a problem?
You can't get past the fact we take in $5 trillion, we spend $7 trillion, and leadership
I'm
seem to be okay with that.
I'm fascinated the way you blame Kevin McCarthy that you're $33 trillion in debt, but you're going to get a new leader. I'm sure he's going to solve everything.
Well, I'm surprised that you give him full credit for all the successes that we've had, because
all I could say is for 9 months, I don't think you should take all the blame.
Well, why are we backing it up? We had 9 months exactly. That's a great point. Why did we wait 9 months to do something about the wall, something about the budget, something about? Well, we never did anything about term limits, which we promised
I watched him for an hour and 15 minutes. He was doing an awful lot, but not enough for you. Tim Burchett, Congressman, thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. It's been a pleasure.
All right, 19 minutes before the. So Speaker McCarthy had 96% approval rating.
To what is it, Burchett, whatever his name is. I got to give credit because, like I said, if I was on that, I understand what Brian Killmeade's trying to do, and I even agree with him a little bit, because I don't think Kevin McCarthy can be blamed for everything that happened in Washington in 9 months. No, Matt, the umbrella it's locked. It's leaning up against the house. It's bent like 45 degrees. It's got a 50-pound propane tank. I'm actually just going to buy one, go to Amazon and buy one. My green screen was doing fine, but then the sun went over it. We're getting some overcast. It's fine, whatever. All right, so, but here's the problem. And now I got to somehow edit this show so I can put this on. But it's not that I think Kevin McCarthy, this is going to do anything, but I think what it does, and I made the analogy with sports teams. You fire the head coach, very seldom do you fire the players, right? You hold on to your core group of players, and they're blamed at the very last, unless you're Toronto, which if they don't win it, Austin Matthews is gone. That whole team is just destroyed. Nylander, they're all gone. But that's Toronto. But you get rid of Mike Babcock, you go ahead and fire Pat Quinn, you fire everyone who goes in there who had any skill set as a coach, and you blame them because it's easy. Killmeade is right in the sense that Kevin McCarthy does not carry all of the responsibility, but somebody needs to start being held accountable. And even if he is a sacrificial goat in this whole thing, good. That's the best thing I could say about McCarthy being ousted. Yes, it makes us look inept. Yes, it makes us look childish. Yes, it makes us look petty. But damn it, the truth is that heads need to start rolling. And if you don't get shit done in Washington, you need to be fired. That message is clear. And the reason why I brought up my marketing experience, the reason why I brought up my executive leadership experience is because there were some times that you need to shoot a hostage in business. And you could only handle so much what a district manager hasn't performed in 7 quarters, and they're actually annualizing against themselves, and they're still bleeding money, and they're still ill-effective at their job. You got to shoot a hostage once in a while. And that DM may just be in a situation where he's in a downtrodden part of the country, or it could be that a large portion of younger people have graduated college and he can't find the right people. It could be that his wife is sick. There's a lot of reasons, but sometimes you got to shoot a hostage. Kevin McCarthy was a hostage. And that is the only clear thing that I will say in support of what happened is finally a head rolled, and it's about fucking time. It needed to happen a long time ago. Pelosi should have been removed. Boehner should have been removed. Paul Ryan should have been removed. We need to start holding these people accountable. And now you need to start looking in their funding. I had somebody come after me this morning in regards to Van Orden, and he's a United States Navy SEAL, and I have the utmost respect for him. But I also know that Kevin McCarthy's election campaign fund that raised $39 million paid him almost $250,000. And he voted for McCarthy. Eli Crane didn't. Why not? Why did Marjorie Taylor Greene vote for Kevin McCarthy? Why did she endorse him as speaker if she's a Trump supporter? Why did Lauren Boebert say, hey, no way, shape, or form do I support McCarthy, and stand there in the gain of 21? But guess what? She didn't vote. Is it because she took $330,000 from the Protect the House 2024 campaign fund? Is it the $1.8 million that Kevin McCarthy took out in the last 6 months from the Protect the House 2024 campaign fund to put towards his reelection campaign in 2024? Do you think maybe he saw the writing on the wall? Do you think he qualifies that money since he put that political action committee together while he was speaker? I don't know. We need to start asking questions. We have got to start asking questions. Heads need to roll. So, am I going to go ahead and cry in my soup over Kevin McCarthy? Yeah, because I actually like Kevin McCarthy as a human being. But in the end, he's a politician. And politicians are always in it for three things: money, power, votes. And he's no different. And either is any other politician. Money, power, votes. That's all they care about. Remember, when they're shaking their hands and kissing babies, they're also stealing your lollipops. That's all I got to say, folks. Have a good night. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. Please do me a favor. Tune in. We had a great turnout this morning. Had 156 plus. That's great. That's an evening show. Good to see this is starting to kick in. And it's 11 o'clock. Thursdays are the day. I think Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to start doing this. Try between 8:30 and 9. I was an hour late today. It was hard to get set up. But we've got everything. Got to get this fucking umbrella fixed. But as soon as that's done, we'll be good to go. Folks, go over to the Don't Unfriend Me store. You can get yourself a cool shirt. You can get yourself some amazing coffee. Made in the United States, made by a wonderful veteran who is a good friend of mine named Matt Hawley. He's on vacation right now. Makes the best damn coffee, the oiliest, blackest coffee you've ever had. You put cream in it, you're a communist. It's so good. It doesn't matter. It's nectar from the gods. Jitter Juice, folks. Go get it. I'll see y'all